Hello everyone, it's Sam, aka Ocean Unknown, and welcome back to my channel. So a couple weeks ago I made a video about the show that got me into makeup, which is the sci-fi competition show Face Off. But there was something else that piqued my interest in makeup, and that was the 2012 movie The Hunger Games, which, fun fact, V. Neal, one of the judges on Face Off, was the makeup designer and makeup head for all of the Hunger Games movies. I was 9 years old when the first movie came out, and while I wasn't allowed to watch it because it was rated PG-13, I was obsessed with the ad campaign for the movie, which now looking back, they were kind of up, but also genius. The film collabed with China Glaze to create 12 nail polish colors inspired by the 12 districts, and I distinctly remember Marie Claire magazine having a whole spread about the fashions of the capital in the movie. These advertisements scarily yet perfectly encapsulated the tone-deaf, materialistic nature of the capital in the Hunger Games, but also the materialistic nature of our society, which Suzanne Collins was critiquing in the book to begin with. Like, this book series is about children dying, and the marketing team was like, ooh, pretty nail polish. Anyways, this video is not about the satirical nature of the Hunger Games ad campaign. It's actually about a very different topic. So I've read the Hunger Games 3 times in my 20 years on this planet, and the third time was very recently, as I read it in a writing class in college. While reading it in college with my newfound knowledge of character analysis because of my Theatrical Lens series on this channel, I found so many foils and details about all of the characters. Even as a theater designer, the way the characters and their clothes are described are so interesting, and I thought, oh, I have to make a video about this. Also, this is perfect timing because as I'm writing this script, all of the Hunger Games movies were put on Netflix temporarily back in March, and everyone was talking about it, and now the prequel movie, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, is coming out this fall. However, I didn't want to make a video about all of the characters because, oh my god, this video would be so long. So I've narrowed it down to the characters that I noticed the most little details about, those being the career tributes. For those of you who haven't read the books or watched the movies, in the Hunger Games, there are tributes in the games called the careers that are from the most affluent districts in Pan Am, Districts 1, 2, and 4, who are trained in combat from early childhood, and then they volunteer to bring pride to their districts in the games. So yeah, incredibly messed up concept. Well yeah, the series is about children killing each other for rich people's entertainment. There are some differences between the careers in the books and the movie, where in the book, the girl from District 4 is a career working with the main career alliance and then dies from tracker jackers, where in the movie, she is not a career and dies in the bloodbath. Her character is never fleshed out in the book or the film, so for the sake of this video, I will not discuss her character as she's just kind of there and then dies. That was kind of mean. In this video, I will analyze the distinct personalities, downfalls, differences from book to movie, and dehumanization of the 4 career tributes of the 74th Annual Hunger Games. The tributes from District 1 ride out in a chariot pulled by white snow horses. They look so beautiful, spray-painted silver, and tasteful tunics glittering with jewels. District 1 makes luxury items for the capital. You can hear the roar of the crowd. They are always favorites. Page 64. This is the reader's first encounter with the career tributes. While not outright saying, these are the career tributes, they are kids trained to murder other kids. This brief blurb about District 1 gives a short and sweet introduction to the idea of the unfair treatment of the districts in Pan Am, and how District 1 is the richest and most favored of the districts. Despite this brief mention of the favoritism given to District 1, the concept of career tributes isn't introduced until page 90 when Katniss thinks, the exceptions are the kids from the wealthier districts, the volunteers, the ones who have been fed and trained throughout their lives for this moment. The tributes from 1, 2, and 4 traditionally have this look about them. It's technically against the rules to train tributes before they reach the capital, but it happens every year. In District 12, we call them the career tributes, or just the careers. And like as not, the winner will be one of them. The slight advantage I held coming into the training center, my fiery entrance last night, seems to vanish in the presence of my competition. Now I see nothing but contempt in the glances of the career tributes. Each must have 50 to 100 pounds on me. They project arrogance and brutality. When Atala releases us, they head straight for the deadliest looking weapons in the gym and handle them with ease. I look around at the career tributes who are showing off, clearly trying to intimidate the field. From the get-go, the careers have their odds all in their favor. Oh Oh wow, almost like that's a huge theme in the story.
They're all brutally strong and know that themselves. All of them have trained their entire lives to compete in these games for only one purpose: to win and be favored by the capital. However, as the story is about overcoming oppressive odds and also resilience and survival, the careers or antagonists, and spoiler alert, don't make it out alive in the 74th annual Hunger Games.
Now, who are the career tributes in the events of the Hunger Games? It's time to analyze them one by one, and I will be going in order of their districts, so starting with District 1, which also completely unplanned, goes in the order of their deaths.
Let's have a warm round of applause for Glimmer!
Glimmer, played by Levin Rambin in the film, is the female tribute from District 1 in the 74th annual Hunger Games. Born and raised in District 1, Glimmer presumably spent most of her life training for the games, and it's highly likely she volunteered, though it's never outright stated. In the mobile game The Hunger Games Adventures, Glimmer can be encountered in District 1, where she explains that her father makes faux flowers out of finely woven crystals, which could also serve as an explanation of why he named her Glimmer. At the age of 17, as stated in the film, Glimmer is the female tribute representing District 1. The first the audience sees of her is, like I said in the last section, the tribute parade. However, unlike in the book where the District 1 tributes are spray painted silver and covered in jewels, in the film, Glimmer and her fellow District 1 tribute Marvel are adorned in fuchsia costumes covered in sequins and feathers. Glimmer's costume features a pink fur shawl, a fuchsia rhinestone dress, and an elaborate feathery showgirl headpiece. The tribute parade costumes are meant to represent the district the tributes are from, thus both the bejeweled costumes from the book and the feathery fuchsia costumes from the film make sense for District 1, the luxury district. As a character, Glimmer is incredibly representative of the presumed morals and ideals of District 1. In the book, Katniss calls the wealthier districts the lap dogs of the capital, trying to imitate the capital and their morals to get as close as they can to the wealth and power they will never have. Katniss even comments on this in the book, saying, "The girl with the arrows, Glimmer, I hear someone call her. Ugh, the names the people in District 1 give their children are so ridiculous." Page 174. Glimmer is a perfect encapsulation and imitation of the capital's image and morals, which is likely what District 1 is also all about, being beautifully dangerous. Since Glimmer is a career tribute, she is automatically a dangerous person in the Hunger Games, which also shows in her training odds. While her individual training score isn't stated, it's stated that career tributes typically score from 8 to 10, and her odds are a 7 to 1 winning chance. However, her odds are the lowest of the careers, which serves as a bit of foreshadowing in the film towards her fate in the games. Despite the fact that Glimmer has a threatening presence in the Hunger Games as a career tribute from arguably the wealthiest district, her strategy in the games is to mask her deadliness with what the capital loves most, second only to power: appearance. During the interviews, Katniss says, "The girl tribute from District 1, looking provocative in a see-through gold gown, steps up the center of the stage to join Caesar for her interview. You can tell her mentor didn't have any trouble coming up with an angle for her. With that flowing blonde hair, emerald green eyes, her body tall and lush, she's sexy all the way." 119. Glimmer and her mentor are very conscious of her image and the importance that her image plays in the games. Earlier on in the book, Haymitch mentions that sponsors often choose who they feel is the most attractive, which is so fucked up. These are children. Once again, a major part of the social commentary in the series is to point out how much pressure society puts on appearance and looks, and how appearance means everything to the rich and famous. I'll discuss this messed up idea in a little bit, but back to Glimmer in District 1, it is highly likely that Glimmer's mentors and trainers in District 1 told her to play up a charming, flirtatious personality in order to win sponsors. In the movies, it seemingly worked, as before her interview, Caesar Flickerman says District 1 is first, earning a couple cheers from the audience. Her mentor and stylist likely told her that she's classically beautiful, and that her beauty was her golden ticket to winning the Hunger Games, especially considering the fact that unlike the other careers, Glimmer isn't skilled in using a particular weapon very well. Her main weapon is a bow and arrow, but as Katniss says on page 174, she tries to shoot me and it's immediately evident that she's incompetent with a bow. Since Glimmer isn't as skilled as the other careers in fighting, her dangerous position in the games lies in how she is perceived by the viewers. Despite her being from one of the wealthiest and most popular districts, Glimmer and her team still do everything in their power to make Glimmer memorable, using her image to their advantage. This is very evident in her behavior in the interviews and at times during the games, but also in her outfits in the book and the costume design in the film.
As interesting as it would have been to see Glimmer and Marvel will be spray painted silver and crystallized like a glamazon bitch ready for the runway. I actually really like the film's costume design for the District 1's tribute parade.
Giving Glimmer a showgirl headpiece frames her face, which is a massive part of her strategy in the game. Combined with sequins, fringe, feathers, and jewels, her costume shows off both the luxury district and her appearance. Fuchsia is also a bold color that radiates confidence, which is a huge part of the wealthy districts and their tributes. Her interview dress is also different from book to screen, as in the book she wears a see-through gold gown, and in the film she wears a peach tulle dress with an empire waist. Despite this, her interview dress still serves the same purpose, which is to make her appear as conventionally attractive as possible to the Capital viewers and any potential sponsors. Regarding her behavior, her social strategy matches her physical strategy. In her interview with Caesar, she acts very flirtatious, walking in a way so the tulle on her dress flutters and saying, "And it feels good too," when Caesar compliments her dress. However, Glimmer's strategy still stays true to the beautifully dangerous nature of the Capital in District 1. After playing around flirtatiously with Caesar, she's quick to switch to being more threatening by immediately saying how prepared she is for the games. Her beautifully dangerous persona also gets her into a bit of trouble, as before the games begin, her tribute token gets confiscated. In the Hunger Games, each contestant is able to bring one item of clothing or accessory with them in the arena, and Glimmer brings in a gemstone ring. However, the security found that when the ring is twisted, it reveals a poison spike. In the book, Cinna tells Katniss about the ring confiscation by saying she claimed she had no knowledge the ring transformed and there was no way to prove she did, but she lost her token. Page 139.
While it is unclear if Glimmer actually knew about the poison ring, I'd like to headcanon that she absolutely did, and it was all part of her and her mentor's plan. They likely knew that she wasn't confident in a specific weapon and found a way around it. Enter the poison ring. Her mentor also likely thought since District 1 is such a favored district, she could probably get away with it. However, this did not happen, and Glimmer had only her combat skills, career status, and perception from the Capital to save her now.
Moving on to how she is in the actual games, Glimmer's flirtatious personality completely disappears as she, like the other careers, runs straight to the weapons to mercilessly kill the weaker tributes. She only kills one of them, the girl from District 6, once again showing how she is the weakest of the tributes in terms of fighting. She is also the only career tribute in the 74th Hunger Games to almost get killed in the bloodbath. In the film, the boy from District 6 pushes her to the ground and is about to kill her, but Cato grabs him and bashes his head into a piece of the cornucopia. Later, the careers find the girl from District 8 who made a fire in the middle of the night. In the book, Peeta is the one to kill her, but in the film, Cato gives Glimmer his sword and she kills the girl from District 8. After her second kill in the games is where we see Glimmer's initial strategy come out again. The careers walk off laughing after Glimmer kills the girl from District 8, but Glimmer turns around to Cato and says, Glimmer's strategy of being the charismatic flirt has returned, as it benefits her alliance with the careers, especially Cato. With Cato, her strategy seemingly worked as they trust each other to discuss Peeta's fate in the career alliance, just the two of them. During this scene, Glimmer asks Cato, "Are you sure we shouldn't just kill him now?" Which Cato rejects because he wants Peeta to lead him to Katniss. After the wildfire in the arena, the careers find Katniss and chase her, and we see Glimmer once again being especially close to Cato. Also, you can hear Glimmer yell, "She's mine," twice while chasing after Katniss, most likely calling dibs on killing Katniss. Something so sinister about this scene, which goes for all of the careers, is how they're all grinning ear to ear and laughing. Noticeably, Glimmer and her district partner Marvel are smiling the most, but when the careers cheer on Katniss to kill Cato, Glimmer is a bit more quiet than her counterparts. A possible character choice for why Glimmer and at times Marvel acts like this is because of their status as District 1 tributes. They are both aware of the image they must uphold as not only careers but also as representatives of the Capital's most favorable district. However, this image is a lot more important to Glimmer than Marvel due to her beautiful yet dangerous strategy. That night, the careers try to sleep in shifts, however that plan fails most likely due to Glimmer. In the book, Katniss says, "Below me, I can see the career pack and Peeta asleep on the ground. By her position, leaning up against the trunk of the tree, I'd guess Glimmer was supposed to be on guard, but fatigue overcame her." page 180. On the other hand, in the film, Glimmer is the one supposed to be keeping guard, but her location is a little different. Unlike the other careers who sleep very far apart, Glimmer and Cato sleep very close to each other, and Glimmer uses Cato's arm as a pillow. Once again, Glimmer's flirtatious strategy is seemingly working. However, this would soon change as Glimmer's inattention turns into her biggest downfall. That morning, Katniss drops a nest of poisonous tracker-jackers on the sleeping careers and Peeta. Everyone is lucky to run away fast enough to the lake, except for Glimmer. In the book, it states, Glimmer appears to go completely mad, shrieking and trying to bat the wasp off with her bow, which is pointless. She calls to the others for help, but of course, no one returns. 182. The tracker-jackers swarm her body, stinging her endlessly until she hits the ground. Witnessing Glimmer's death, Katniss thinks the swelling, the pain, the ooze. Watching Glimmer twitching to death on the ground. It's a lot to handle before the sun has even cleared the horizon. I don't want to think about what Glimmer must look like now. Her body disfigured, her swollen fingers stiffening around the bow. 183. However, the most terrifying part of this is in the book, which is the fact that after falling to the ground and the tracker-jackers leaving the premises, the death cannon doesn't go off for a while. Glimmer is still alive for at least a couple of minutes after being attacked by the tracker-jackers. Katniss thinks in the books, I haven't heard the cannons fire yet, so perhaps Glimmer is in some sort of coma, her heart still struggling against the wasp venom. 183. As Katniss reaches for the bow in Glimmer's now bloated and bruised hand, she thinks, this girl, so breathtakingly beautiful in her golden dress the night of the interviews, is unrecognizable. Features eradicated, her limbs 3 times their normal size. The stinger lumps have begun to explode, spewing putrid green liquid around her. I have to break several of what used to be her fingers with a stone to free the bow. The sheath of arrows is pinned under her back. I try to roll over her body by pulling on one arm, but the flesh disintegrates in my hands and I fall back on the ground. 183. Glimmer's death is horrifying both in the idea of being stung to death by poisonous bees, not dying immediately, and also in an ironic sense.
While me saying Glimmer's cause of death is ironic may sound terrible, it makes sense and was highly likely intended.
Think back to the quote from the book I just said. This girl, so breathtakingly beautiful in her golden dress the night of the interviews, is unrecognizable. As Glimmer's character represents the appearance and image-obsessed nature of District 1 in the capital, her dying in a way that completely distorts her and makes her grotesque to look at is ironic. There is also foreshadowing and irony for her death found in her name. The definition of Glimmer is to shine faintly with a wavering light, which foreshadows how her fame and potential were cut short. Glimmer's death also serves as a parallel between Katniss and her mentor, Haymitch Abernathy, as in Haymitch's games, the last 2 standing were him and a girl tribute from District 1, who fans have headcanoned her name to be Opal. Like Haymitch, who indirectly killed Opal with the arena force field, Katniss indirectly killed Glimmer by using the Capitol's inventions in the games. In this case, the tracker-jacker mutant wasps. Despite the irony, when you think about it, it's also quite sad.
I think this is where I will open up a huge part of this video's point. While the career tributes are antagonists and have done evil things, they're also victims of the Capitol, and their actions throughout the book and film show the manipulation the Capitol did to them and how messed up the Capitol's morals are.
In the case of Glimmer, the Capitol manipulated her to overly view her appearance to the point where she is dehumanized, and the only crucial aspects of her survival are her status as a career and her appearance. I'm going to go back to something I said earlier. Haymitch mentions that sponsors often choose who they feel is the most attractive, which is so f***ed up. These are children. Glimmer is constantly described as sexy in the book. She is a minor. The book does a good job of showing how normalized it is in the Capitol to favor appearance and beauty standards, as well as the normalized disgusting behavior towards literal children in the Capitol. This is especially apparent with how Caesar acts with Glimmer in her interview, making her slap his hand multiple times flirtatiously and him touching her dress without consent, then turning the non-consent into a joke. Glimmer is objectified by the Capitol, but believes this is the reward for staying true to her strategy in the games, which makes her death even more mortifying. In death, she loses the one thing that was valuable of hers according to the Capitol, her physical appearance. The dehumanization of Glimmer goes even further post-mortem. When the games get down to the final 3 tributes, the game makers add in wolf mutations to attack them. While running away from the wolves, Katniss makes a very important observation. She thinks, there's something else about them. something that makes the hair rise up on the back of my neck, but I can't put my finger on it. Then one of them, a good-sized mutt with silky waves of blonde fur, takes a running start and leaps onto the horn. Its back legs must be incredibly powerful because it takes a mere 10 feet below us, its pink lips pulled back in a snarl. For a moment it hangs there, and in that moment I realize what else unsettled me about the mutts. The green eyes glowering at me are unlike any dog or wolf, any canine I've ever seen. They are unmistakably human, and that revelation has barely registered when I notice the collar with the number 1 inlaid with jewels, and the horrible thing hits me. The blonde hair, the green eyes, the number. It's Glimmer, 318 to 319. The wolf mutations are designed to have the eyes and appearance of the dead tributes of the 74th Hunger Games, and Glimmer is the first one that the characters recognize in the mutts. While it is left unanswered if the mutts have the dead tributes' DNA or real eyes or not, the books imply that they do. In Mockingjay, Katniss and the Rebellion fight lizard mutts that Katniss describes to have a human shape and size and a mismatch of human and reptilian features. The book implies that the mutant animals designed by the Capitol can be composed of real human flesh, which actually feeds a lot into this analysis of how all of the bodies of the citizens of Panem can and will be exploited, even after death. And this exploitation plays a massive part in Glimmer. Her appearance and status are the only thing the Capitol valued in her, and they continue to exploit those things in death and post-mortem. As I've stated, Glimmer is, like everyone else from the districts in this series, a victim of the Capitol, which the books show even after Glimmer's story is finished. In Catching Fire, Katniss has recurring nightmares which often feature Glimmer's dead body and her wolf mutt attacking her, whereas Peeta paints the nightmares he's having, one of them being of Glimmer's wolf mutt. The mention of Glimmer being in Katniss and Peeta's nightmares brings it into perspective that, like them, all of the tributes of the Hunger Games suffer despicable grisly fates, and those who win also suffer through the trauma of being in the games. Glimmer suffered an unimaginable fate, and her body was then mutilated into a wolf mutt, and this further shows how dehumanized she was as a character. The strategy her mentors made Glimmer do in the games is also very comparable to a prominent character of Catching Fire, Finnick Odair, the winner of the 65th Hunger Games. Like Glimmer, Finnick was incredibly popular for his appearance by Capitol citizens, especially older people. His appearance won him many sponsors, including what is considered to be the most expensive item given to a tribute during the games, his trident, which he has become synonymous with. After winning his games, Finnick was forced into prostitution by President Snow, where he was sold off to many citizens of the Capitol, including President Snow, for sex. Both Finnick and Glimmer were incredibly dehumanized by the Capitol in a vulgar, pedophilic way. It's a scary thought that if Glimmer won, she would have suffered the same way Finnick did, but that idea becomes even more real when it's taken into consideration that Glimmer's mentor could have been Kashmir, the winner of the 64th Hunger Games, who was also forced into prostitution after winning. This also serves as a massive mirror to our society, as beauty standards rooted in pedophilia are so normalized, and many people in power have had misconduct scandals connected to pedophilia. It's also possible that Glimmer's mentor gave Finnick as an example of a past victor to emulate in her strategy, with the hopes of being given a weapon she can use better or become synonymous with her, which is also likely what the poisonous ring was for. All in all, Glimmer's character serves to show the morals of the Capitol, especially the hyper-focus on appearance and beauty, and how the bodies of the tributes are exploited from reaping until death.
In my personal opinion, the message that Glimmer's character gives to not only the characters in the Hunger Games, but also to readers and viewers, is one of the most haunting. She did everything the Capitol asked of her, giving her autonomy, body, and personal perception for a better chance of surviving, but then died in one of the most gruesome ways in the series. Out of all the careers, Glimmer is probably the one I've always felt the most empathy towards, even in my first read of the book back in 2015. Her story mirrors a lot of issues in our society, like the pressure we put on appearance, and how people, especially women in a society where misogyny is so normalized and ingrained, are exploited even beyond death, and how everyone in a corrupt society gets fucked over except those in power.
Let's hear it for Marvel!
As I tried to avoid looking at his family, I learned that his name was Marvel. How did I never know that? I suppose that before the games I didn't pay attention, and afterwards I didn't want to know. This is how Katniss learns the name of the District 1 male tribute of the 74th Hunger Games, Marvel. Marvel is quite different from book to film. Played in the film by national nepo baby Jack Quaid, Marvel was born and raised in District 1, and at the age of 17, volunteered in the 74th Hunger Games, as stated by Caesar Flicker Ackerman in the film. Like his district partner Glimmer, he is first introduced in the tribute parade wearing a costume complementary to hers. In the book, a tunic and his body spray painted silver, and in the film, a pink sequin top, black harem pants, black knee-high leather riding boots, and a magenta knee-length fur coat. His costume was also intended to have a Shakespearean fuchsia hat with a feather sticking out that was cut from the film. His fur collar and unbothered attitude throughout the parade is our segue into what is Marvel's defining trait in the story: arrogance. In the narrative of the games, Marvel is the textbook overconfident career tribute, and this is even more apparent in the training scenes. He shows immense skill at throwing spears, but on the sidelines he laughs with the other careers when others fail. In the films, Marvel viewed PETA as a meal until PETA threw a medicine ball at a rack of spears, shutting Marvel up both literally and metaphorically, as spears are his main weapon. For his training evaluation, he gets a score of 9, and his odds of winning the games are 5-1. The next we see Marvel is the interview scene in the film, where he wears a cornflower blue suit, a blue single-breasted vest, and a blue and yellow dress shirt. The choice of him wearing blue in the scene is very interesting, as he somewhat matches Caesar, just in a lighter shade. It also connects him to another character he is connected with, Rue. Like him, Rue also wears blue in her interview, but in a much softer pastel blue. Rue's fate at the hands of Marvel is also foreshadowed in the story, as Katniss and PETA first meet her while trying to throw spears. Back to the interview, Marvel's suit has clashing blue and yellow, which, taking into consideration color psychology, this was most likely chosen to make him stand out. Yellow, even in subtle amounts, can draw attention, as it is the first color the eyes see far away. During his interview, he says he's always wanted to be in the Hunger Games since he was a little kid. He says, "I would see someone killing someone else, and I just thought, that's me." He explains that his dad was a hunter and that inspired him to volunteer, going on saying, "It really goes to show if you apply yourself and if you focus, that all your dreams can come true." Marvel then proceeds to do the most F-boy thing in this whole film, even more than Cato's. While his strategy isn't directly said in the book or movie, Marvel's strategy for the games is crystal clear at this moment. Like his district partner Glimmer, he has an evident social strategy. However, unlike Glimmer, whose entire strategy was her social strategy of being an attractive flirt, Marvel has his social strategy to fall back on if his training skills fail him. In the interview, Marvel is attempting to be relatable to the Capitol, wearing bright colors and enjoying the Hunger Games. His little preachy speech about dreams coming true is also feeding into the Capitol's false sense that the Hunger Games are a good thing for everyone involved. As shown in the film, he is celebrated for his eagerness for the games, which is also his defining trait in the story. Marvel has the eagerness and arrogance of the Capitol, and this shows in how he is in the games. In the bloodbath, Marvel kills 2 tributes: the District 8 male, whom he stabbed to death with a knife, and the District 7 female by spearing her through the heart. Marvel isn't shown too much after this other than being with the other careers until Marvel is the one to first find Katniss in the lake. He loudly exclaims, "Oh, there she is!" as he smiles ear to ear running after Katniss. During this scene, he's also noticeably the most talkative career, and like I mentioned when discussing Glimmer, is that he smiles the most out of the career pack. When Cato tries to climb the tree to kill Katniss, he never says, "Kill her." He simply shouts, "Go," with his mouth agape and a wide smile. This is likely similar to Glimmer intentionally piping down as Cato attempts to kill Katniss, and is likely because of the image they have to uphold as a part of District 1. However, Marvel's arrogance shows in his intense facial expressions when Cato attempts and fails to climb the tree. Along with that, in a deleted scene from the film after the careers kill the girl from District 8, Marvel can be heard saying, "Did you see the look on her face? It's like, what did you expect?" Which clearly illustrates his cockiness. Despite this, there's also an interpretation that Marvel's exaggerated faces aren't due to his arrogance, but are just part of his stupidity. In the Hunger Games tribute guidebook, it mentions that Marvel was not the sharpest tool in the shed, but his size, brutality, and ability with weapons made him a deadly tribute. His lack of intelligence is also shown much later, as he's the one to first fall for Katniss and Rue's diversion so Katniss can destroy the career's supplies. Marvel's only time of importance himself in the story is that he is Rue's killer. After their supplies are destroyed, Cato sends Marvel out to murder whoever destroyed their supplies, which leads him to trap Rue in a net. net. In the book, he stabs her with a spear in the net while Katniss witnesses her murder, whereas in the film, Katniss finds Rue in the net, gets her out, and then Marvel throws the spear into Rue's abdomen. Katniss then shoots him with her bow and arrow in the neck in the book and in the stomach in the film. Collins writes, "The boy from District 1 dies before he can pull out the spear. My arrow drives deeply into the center of his neck. He falls to his knees and halves the brief remainder of his life by yanking out the arrow and drowning in his own blood." Page 221. Marvel's death is quick and avengeful as he killed Katniss's closest ally at this point in the story. His death, like Glimmer's, also has some irony to it. As I've mentioned many times, Marvel was cocky, arrogant, boasting of how he'd do in the games, but his death is quick. And as Katniss realizes that Marvel was technically her first kill, she realizes how second nature it was, both because of her hunting background and to avenge Rue. It's even more ironic that Marvel's dad was a hunter, and Katniss's realization compares her killing Marvel to the countless squirrels she's killed in District 12. To Katniss, Marvel's death was simple, and as she never learned his name until visiting District 1 and Catching Fire, forgettable. This is also further shown in Catching Fire as Katniss sees a hallucination of Marvel while hunting. In the end, Marvel wanted to be the bombastic, cocky victor, but became the forgotten first victim of the girl on fire. Out of all of the careers, he is the hardest to find empathy or sympathy for. Most importantly, for murdering an innocent 12-year-old girl who was the protagonist's strongest ally, as well as his arrogance. After his death, Katniss finds a pack of dried fruit and a water bottle in his backpack, illustrating how he still had bountiful resources from the career's now destroyed supplies and from sponsors. As a character, Marvel represents the arrogance and privilege of the capital, which trickles down to the career districts. Even with the abundance of supplies and rations the careers had, he still kept some food selfishly. He also tries to be comedic and inspirational in his interview to appeal to sponsors, despite ruthlessly murdering children. However, like Glimmer and the rest of the careers, Marvel is a victim of the capital's propaganda. Even while hurting after Rue's death, Katniss says in the book, to hate the boy from District 1, who also appears so vulnerable in death, seems inadequate. It's the capital I hate for doing this to all of us. Page 224. Like a career tribute I will discuss very shortly, Marvel is an intimidating force that dies in a cowardly, vulnerable state. His hidden cowardice is also symbolized in his weapon of choice, a throwing javelin. Unlike the other male career Cato, Marvel specializes in fighting from a distance. Similarly to the character I'm discussing next, fighting from a distance rather than head-on symbolizes their true nature of being a scared kid.
Even with his horrible actions, especially to Rue, Marvel was forced into this too, and Katniss understands that as she sees his dead body. While I did say Marvel is the career I feel the least empathetic or sympathetic towards, he was also a pawn in the Capital's evil games.
Welcome, Clove.
I know I've had a pattern thus far on the section titles having the character's name in it, but I couldn't think of anything for this one. Clove, played in the film by Esther from Orphan herself, Isabella Furman.
How are you? Oh, you're in the orphan. Yeah, I am. Mom.
Is the female tribute from District 2 in the 74th Annual Hunger Games. She was born, raised, and trained from childhood in District 2 until she volunteered for the Hunger Games when she was 15, making her the youngest career tribute. In the film, Clove is first seen with her district partner Cato in the tribute parade wearing golden gladiator-themed armor. Cato and Clove's tribute parade costumes are nearly identical other than their headpieces. Clove's headpiece has a top, whereas Cato's is more of a headband. Since they're wearing identical outfits, I'll do their costume analysis together during this scene. The Roman armor inspiration reflects both District 2's main industry, masonry, as well as the fact that the capital scouts out soldiers and their military mostly from District 2. Also, while this connection isn't in the film, these costumes serve as foreshadowing to the armor that Cato was gifted during the games at the feast. Furthermore, these costumes symbolize the privileges of District 2 as a career district. As mentioned in the prequel novel of the Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, the Hunger Games were originally fought in a Roman Colosseum-like battle arena, so the Roman inspiration in the tribute parade costume speaks to District 2's loyalty to the capital. The use of gold is also important as gold in the media symbolizes good fortune, triumph, and success. The odds, after all, are entirely in their favor, especially since it is stated in the book that the victor from the previous year's Hunger Games was a boy from District 2. Clove is next seen in the film during the training scene, where she shows her expertise at throwing knives. Katniss makes a reference to this in the book much later when she says, "I've seen her throw in training." she never misses. Page 144. During training, Clove is mostly shown with the other career tributes as they scope out the competition. However, there's some striking differences between Clove and the other careers that are first recognizable in this scene. She is noticeably the shortest of the careers, standing at 5'4", almost a whole foot shorter than Marvel, the tallest career at 6'3". Along with this, the other careers have a much more open posture than she does. This one scene is where a huge part of Clove's character starts to appear. Unlike the other tributes where a massive physical or intimidating presence, Clove is small and, as the readers and viewers later see, an insecure child. Despite this, Clove hides her true nature of insecurity behind the career staple of arrogance, as well as probably her most defining feature, sadism. For the individual training evaluations, Clove scores a 10 and her odds to win are 5-1, the same as Marvel. The evaluations are what sparks the career's hatred towards Katniss, other than Katniss and Peeta outshining them in the tribute parade and possibly losing them sponsors and advantages, contemplating how someone from the poorest district got a better score than them. However, Clove is much angrier about this than the others, and her hatred evolves into seeking vengeance in the games towards Katniss. Later in the interviews, Clove looks irritated as she waits her turn, mostly towards the interviews going on before hers. When it is her turn, she steps on stage in her beautiful orange dress and interesting bubble braided hairstyle. I'll come back to her hairstyle later as it plays into her characterization, but let's talk about her dress. In her interview, she wears a peachy orange tulle dress with a ribbon trim with beige high heels detailed with beige and pink roses. In color analysis, peach represents vitality, energy, and is often used to create a more understated feeling of femininity compared to colors typically associated with femininity. Clove's stylist team likely chose this dress for her to show a softer side to her because her mentors and team likely knew of her sadistic nature and merciless way of killing. This soft, frilly dress completely contradicts the cold, sarcastic, and arrogant route she takes in her interview with Caesar. She says she's the best with a knife and then tells Caesar,
I could kill you from clear across this stage.
Afterwards, Clove's sadism is also shown in how she smiles at Katniss in the hovercraft. Moving on to the actual games, Clove is seen with another bubble braid hairstyle, this time in a ponytail.
Let's talk about her hairstyles now.
Linda Flowers, the hairstylist for the film, has stated that Clove's hairstyle in the arena was inspired by the quote-unquote bad girls in Japanese action movies, specifically the girls with high ponytails with knives in them. Flowers took inspiration and decided to do a hairstyle made of balls. In my interpretation in the movie, Clove's stylist chose this hairstyle for her to keep some consistency and to make her more memorable to the audience.
I would also like to throw out a random headcanon that I just came up with. After Katniss got an 11, Clove was so upset with the attention Katniss was getting and her higher score and addressed this with her mentor. Her mentor and team then made a plan to make Clove more memorable to get sponsors, thus deciding to style her hair in a specific way for both her interview and in the games.
Back to the games, Clove gets the first kill in the 74th Hunger Games, throwing a knife into the back of the boy from District 9. The book explains, and then he coughs, splattering my face with blood. Then the boy slips to the ground. That's when I see the knife in his back. Yes, the girl from District 2, 10 yards away, running towards me, one hand clutching a half-dozen knives, and I'm her next target. All the general fear I've been feeling condenses into an immediate fear of this girl, this predator who might kill me in seconds. Adrenaline shoots through me as I sling the pack over one shoulder and run full speed for the woods. I can hear the blade whistling towards me and reflexively hike the pack up to protect my head. The blade lodges in the pack. Somehow I know the girl will not pursue me, that she'll be drawn back into the cornucopia before all the good stuff is gone. Page 144. After failing to kill Katniss with a knife, he goes back to taking supplies from the cornucopia. As the District 9 male is the only person we see Clove kill, Clove canonically has the lowest kill count of the careers. However, it is possible that she could have killed any of the unseen victims of the bloodbath, such as the District 9 female, the District 10 female, or the District 7 male. Judging from the bloodbath scene in the film, it can be inferred that Clove did in fact also kill the District 7 male, as she is shown throwing him to the ground. She continues hunting with the careers, but mostly stays in the back of the pack. When they find Katniss and Cato tries to climb a tree, Clove screams, "Come on, Cato! Go!
Go! Kill her!
Once again, showing how she's the most violently hateful towards Katniss. Also, right as they find her in the tree, you can hear Clove say, "Where do you think you're going?" which further illustrates her sadistic nature. As the careers leave and plan to set up camp underneath the tree, Clove is the last one to leave Katniss. Even as she walks away, she's deaf staring up the tree at Katniss, once again wearing her hatred for her on her face. That night in the film, Clove kills a lizard with her throwing knives. The small scene once again serves to show her violent behavior, but in a slightly different light. Her violence is intentional as she has to aim her throwing knives, but killing a lizard for particularly no reason can come off as impulsive. It becomes clear in the scene that Clove released her anger and violent tendencies she has towards Katniss on something powerless, the lizard in this case. That morning, while the careers are still asleep, Clove, even while asleep, is gripping one of her knives. Once again, Clove, unlike the other careers, feels the need to be prepared to kill whenever it is necessary. This could show her sadism, her instinct towards aggression and violence, or even her lack of security compared to the other careers. The next we hear of Clove is in the book when Claudius Temple-Smith reveals the rule change that two tributes from the same district can win together. Katniss says, "So that leaves Cato and the girl from District 2, who are now surely celebrating the new rule. They're the only ones left who benefit from it besides Peeta and myself. Do I run from them now on the chance they heard me call Peeta's name? No, I think. Let them come. Let them come with their night vision glasses and their heavy branch-breaking bodies." Page 235. Clove isn't named in the book until Peeta expresses concern that he thought Cato and Clove hunted Katniss down. Then, the feast happens. The Capital Sense gifts cater to the remaining 6 tributes to the cornucopia, and Katniss goes to retrieve what she assumes is medicine for Peeta's severely injured leg. As Katniss runs to retrieve the bag for District 12, she encounters Clove. In the book, Katniss says, "Fortunately, the first knife comes whizzing in on my right side so I can hear it, and I'm able to deflect it with my bow. I turn, drawing back the bowstring, and send an arrow straight at Clove's heart. She turns just enough to avoid a fatal hit, but the point punctures her upper left arm. Unfortunately, she throws with her right, but it's enough to slow her down a few moments. Having to pull the arrow from her arm, taking the severity of the wound, and I'm turning to fire again where the second knife catches me in the forehead. It slices above my right eyebrow, opening a gash that sends a gush running down my face, blinding my eye, filling my mouth with the sharp metallic taste of my own blood. And then Clove slams into me, knocking me flat on my back, pinning my shoulders to the ground with her knees." Page 270. In this scene, the difference between Clove in the book and Clove in the film becomes evident. Like the other career tributes, Clove in the books is a physical threat, being able to pin down Katniss with only her knees. However, Clove in the film pins down Katniss with her feet and is less of a physical threat since she has a smaller frame. Katniss says in the books, "I'm struggling now in an effort to unseat her, but it's no use. She's too heavy and her lock on me too tight." 271. This change from book to film also makes Clove's unhingedness more apparent in the film, as that is what makes her so threatening. In both the book and the film, Clove asks where Peeta is.
Where's Loverboy?
Keeping Katniss pinned down, Clove continues to threaten her, and there's a line in the book that really sticks out to me. She carefully selects an almost dainty-looking number with a cruel curved blade. "I promised Cato if he let me have you, I'd give the audience a good show." 271. She then says she's going to kill Katniss, just like the careers killed Rue. Katniss says in the book, "For a moment, she surveys my face, tilting it from side to side as if it's a block of wood and she's deciding exactly what pattern to carve on it. I think," she almost purrs, "I think we'll start with your mouth." I clamp my teeth together as she teasingly traces the outline of my lips with the tip of the blade. "Yes, I don't think you'll have much use for your lips anymore. Want to blow Loverboy one last kiss?" she asks. I work up a mouthful of blood and saliva and spit it in her face. She flushes with rage. "Alright then, let's get started." 272. As it is evident here, Clove's sadism comes in when she is threatened by something, leading to her violence. Since the scores, Clove has been intimidated by Katniss and wishes to be the one to kill her, shown by the fact that she made a promise to Cato regarding Katniss's fate. She also feels the need to drag Katniss's death out for 2 reasons that are very important to her character. First off, to prove that despite her age and height, she is just as intimidating as the other careers. While she's not physically strong, her unhinged, sadistic attitude makes her absolutely terrifying. Secondly, because of standards she feels she must uphold as a career tribute. She says, "I promised Cato if he let me have you, you, I give the audience a good show, while carefully choosing the knife that will give Katniss the most twisted death. Like all of the careers, Clove feels like she owes something to the Capitol by being in the games, which is all part of the Capitol's propaganda. In her mind, she must give the Capitol an entertaining scene of killing their beloved girl on fire, a plot twist, aiming to get them on the edge of their seats. Clove, just like the other careers, was brainwashed into the way of thinking of the Capitol. Districts 1 and 2 have to stay the intimidating, merciless forces they have been for over half a century in order for the districts to turn on each other in the games rather than the districts unifying and trying to rebel again against the Capitol. In order for this image to stay intact, the careers must maintain this image, which was evident in the previous sections. Glimmer, beautifully dangerous just like District 1, Marvel, arrogant and harmful, and then there's Clove, outwardly hostile and violent, just like the militant nature of District 2. Her way of keeping this image is through sadism and verbal and physical aggression, especially towards the people rebelling against the curated image she's been told to follow. In this case, Katniss and Peeta. Peeta had already betrayed the careers by saving Katniss after the Tracker Tracker incident, and Katniss and Peeta have been the stars of the 74th Hunger Games since the very beginning. There's also a very popular fan interpretation that if Katniss and Peeta weren't in the picture, Clove would have won. There can really be an argument for all the careers being the favorite to win, except maybe Marvel, since he didn't have much of a storyline or shown favoritism, but if the 74th Hunger Games were just a regular Hunger Games, chances are the victor would have been either Clove, Glimmer, or Cato. I already addressed Glimmer's strategy and how her mentor likely wanted her to take the Finnick Odair approach, but let's discuss how Clove could have possibly won. Previously, I mentioned the balls in her hair becoming her staple, which the Capitol would possibly adore and try to copy in their hair like they did with Katniss's braid during the victory tour in Catching Fire. Clove is also presented as someone the Capitol would want to win because of their morals. They'd likely eat up a 15-year-old career tribute volunteering when most careers volunteer during the final year they can be chosen for the Hunger Games, 18, along with her eagerness to kill and make the Capitol proud. They would also likely enjoy the contrast between her sadistic, merciless nature in the games and her more soft, youthful appearance in her interview. Lastly, Clove's skills with throwing knives can make it decently easy for her to kill Cato and any other threats to her winning. Back to Clove's story in the Hunger Games, Katniss says in the book, "But as I feel the tip open the first cut at my lip, some great form yanks Clove from my body and then she's screaming. But when I push myself up on my numb arms, I see it's none of the above. Clove is dangling a foot off the ground, imprisoned in Thresh's arms. I let out a gasp, seeing him like that, towering over me, holding Clove like a rag doll. He flips Clove around and flings her onto the ground. Clove is scrambling backwards on all fours, like a frantic insect, too shocked to even call for Cato. Clove sees the stone, about the size of a small loaf of bread, in Thresh's hands and loses it. Cato! She screeches, Cato! 273 to 274. Although Clove is killed by Thresh, the District 11 male and Rue's district partner, to avenge Rue's death in both the book and film, Clove's death is different in the book and film. In the book, Thresh bashes a rock into her skull multiple times, making her death slow and incredibly painful as she doesn't instantly die. However, in the film, Thresh bashes Clove into the cornucopia twice and she dies instantly. Also in the book, Cato sees Clove die in his arms. It says, Cato kneels beside Clove, spear in hand, begging her to stay with him. In a moment, he realizes it's futile. She can't be saved. After a few minutes, I hear the cannon and I know that Clove has died. Page 275. This ending to Clove implies that Clove and Cato had some kind of connection in the games and he didn't want to see her die. It also humanizes their characters a lot, as Cato mourns the death of his district partner and likely a good friend of his back home in District 2. Clove's death also shows that her violent and sadistic nature she had during the rest of the games immediately goes away as her life gets put in Thresh's hands. She at first can't even do anything, but the only thing she thinks to do is scream for Cato. She can't even confess to talking about the careers killing Rue, showing her real cowardly nature. In the end, the most malicious and sadistic tribute in the 74th annual Hunger Games died a coward.
As I've been saying in this whole section of this video, Clove, like all the other careers, is a victim of the Capitol's propaganda. While in the arena she was a menacing, sadistic killer, she died a coward trying to uphold the Capitol's image of career districts.
I'm prepared, vicious, I'm ready to go.
I found the name of this section by looking up Scrabble words with Cato in it, and I think oddly enough, this word is perfect and is my segue into this section's topic.
A hecatomb was a sacrificial method in ancient Greece to sacrifice up to 100 cows, oxen, or bulls to the Greek gods. They tended to be dedicated to Hera, Athena, or Apollo during special religious ceremonies and at the end of the Olympic Games. A hecatomb was offered to Zeus at Olympia. Figuratively, hecatomb is used to describe the sacrifice or destruction by fire, tempest, disease, or the sword of any large number of persons or animals, and also of the wholesale destruction of inanimate objects, and even of mental and moral attributes. This strangely fits the District 2 male tribute of the 74th Annual Hunger Games, Cato, to the point I'm convinced that Suzanne Collins named him Cato due to the hecatomb. Cato, played in the film by Alexander Ludwig, known for being the Ken doll in the music video for Super Freaky Girl by Nicki Minaj, among other projects, is 18 years old and is the first career tribute to be introduced into the book. While on the train to the capital, Katniss watches the other district's reapings, saying, "A few stand out in my mind. A monstrous boy who lunges forward to volunteer from District 2, page 43. This description rings true to how the other tributes, especially Katniss, view Cato at the start of the Hunger Games. A monster. In the film, we first see Cato in the tribute parade with Clove, and while I previously talked about their costumes, I wanted to mention an important connection in Cato's costume here. Writer Kate Mulvaney wrote a great article about how in the tribute parade, Cato was dressed like Theseus, one of the most respected heroes of ancient Greece. Theseus rejected his royal authority and in a way created democracy, escaped the labyrinth and slayed the Minotaur, and most relevant to the Hunger Games, ended the tribute of young Athenians being sent to Crete every 9 years to never be seen again. He'll later on make some questionable and problematic decisions, such as forcing women to marry him at the point of his sword, or attempting to kidnap Persephone. Yeah, Theseus was a misogynist and an awful person, but nonetheless he is known as one of the great heroes of ancient Greece. Mulvaney goes on to say, and Cato, the guy dressed up as Theseus, is the closest that the series comes to a villain amongst the young tributes forced into the arena. There is some irony in the villain being dressed as this great Greek hero of myth, but it goes even further than that. Mulvaney continues on saying, "It's still a little hard to figure out what's going on here though. It gets more and more complex the more I look at it, because the look that Cato gives Katniss in the above picture is so Theseus. This is exactly the face that a young Theseus would make at an upstart Atalanta or Hippolyta. A challenging glare for daring to upstage him."
There's definitely more to the Cato as Theseus analogy in the Hunger Games, but I will address that as Cato's story continues.
Piece by piece in the book and the film, Cato is shown as Katniss's biggest threat in the games, such as when Cato angrily glares at Katniss after the tribute parade, likely for stealing District 2's thunder, and when Katniss says in the book, "I've been preoccupied with watching the boy from District 2 send a spear through a dummy's heart from 15 yards, page 91. During training, Cato, like the other tributes, show off their prowess with weapons and scoff at the other tributes. It is also important to note that in the book, Cato's main weapon is a spear, whereas in the film he mostly uses a sword. His weapon of choice was likely changed in the film to differentiate him from the other male career, Marvel, who also uses a spear. Later on in the film, Cato accuses the boy from District 6, who some sources call Jason and others leave him unnamed, of stealing his knife, which leads to a physical altercation between the two started by Cato. This little scene is oddly the perfect explanation of how Cato has been brainwashed by the Capitol. His first instincts are aggressive violence. Regarding this altercation, Jason didn't even steal Cato's knife. As Katniss looks up at the training nuts on the ceiling, she sees Rue teasingly waving Cato's knife, which she likely did simply to mess with him. Because of the altercation, Cato has to be dragged away by peacekeepers, but the audience can hear Cato say to Jason, "I'll finish you off right here. Actually, better yet, I'll wait for the arena. You're the first one I get, so watch your back, huh? You don't know who you're messing with, kid."
That's called foreshadowing.
For his training evaluation, he scores a 10, and his betting odds to win are 3-1, the best odds out of all the tributes. The next the viewers and readers hear of Cato is during the interviews. In the film, Cato wears a metallic silver blazer, a black dress shirt and pants, and silver and black dress shoes. Once again, I'm going to do a complete costume analysis because I work in costumes and theater, and Cato's interview costume can be taken in a couple directions. First and foremost, silver is typically seen as a cold, numb color, reflecting his cold, ruthless attitude. attitude. The choice of silver could also be a reference to District 2's industry, masonry, and weapons in general, specifically Cato's sword. Furthermore, in color psychology, silver is often used to display one's wealth and power, which reflects Cato as a career tribute and the capital's initial fan favorite to win the games before Katniss and Peeta step into the picture. Silver also often represents arrogance, a sense of domination, and a lack of emotion, which fit Cato's character very well. Lastly, silver is typically used in awards for the runner-up, which foreshadows Cato's ultimate fate in the story. In his interview, Cato is described by Katniss as a ruthless killing machine, page 120, and he tells Caesar he is vicious and ready to go. The film has a deleted scene of Cato's full interview where Caesar asks him why he volunteered. Cato tells him, "I think these are the greatest games ever invented, and I just want to be here to win, and I think it's awesome, and it's something I've always wanted to do since I was a kid, and I think anyone who doesn't want to is an idiot." When Caesar says, "Well, I wouldn't go that far," Cato replies, "I'd go farther than that. It's the Hunger Games." His words are full of cocky assurance and are absolutely devoid of sympathy and empathy for anyone. Even more than his words, his body language speaks to his arrogant attitude as he's sitting as if the chair belongs to him, as if this audience is here only for him. This isn't the last time Cato's body language exemplifies his arrogant, "I've already won" attitude. In the hovercraft before the games, all of the tributes are alert with straight posture, except Cato. He is slouched over with his arms rested on his knees as he looks nonchalantly at his competition. Soon afterward, the games begin. Out of all of the careers, Cato is the most merciless in the bloodbath. While he is not mentioned during the bloodbath in the books, in the film he is shown killing the boy from District 10, the girl from District 3, the boy from District 5, Jason, the boy from District 6, who Cato said he'd go after first, and the 12-year-old boy from District 4. After brutally slitting the boy from District 4's throat, Cato stares at the long, shiny sword with murderous awe in his eyes. The next mention of Cato is when the careers kill the girl from District 8 as he convinces Peeta in the books to kill her. However, in the movie, Cato gives his sword to Glimmer to do the job. And then, we once again get the silliest line in this whole movie.
That's actually a good impression.
I've been laughing at this line for a good 5 minutes. Why does Cato sound like a boy?
Afterwards, Glimmer and Cato discuss what to do with Peeta, and Cato says he's our best chance of finding her, 155, referring to Katniss.
There's a little conversation in the book between all of the careers, and while it never says exactly which career is saying what line of dialogue, I'll read it out with my inferences of who said what.
Why? You think she bought into that sappy romance stuff? She might have. Seemed pretty simple-minded to me. Every time I think about her spinning around in that dress, I want to puke. Wish we knew how she got that 11. Bet you love her boy knows. The sound of Peeta returning silences them. Was she dead? Asked the boy from District 2. No, but she is now, says Peeta. Just then, the cannon fires. Ready to move on? The next day, the careers, led by Cato, chase Katniss. During this chase scene, Cato was laughing and smiling like all the other careers as he leads the pack. He yells, "Way to go, girl on fire," as he tries to intimidate her in the film, whereas in the book, Katniss intentionally acts calm and collected when talking with the careers. Katniss sarcastically tells him to join her in the tree as he tries to climb the tree with his sword. In both the film and the book, Cato only makes it a couple feet before falling on his back on the ground. The careers in the book give up trying to get to Katniss after Glimmer terribly shoots an arrow toward her, but in the film, Cato tries to shoot an arrow too, which he fails. After they've run out of attempts, they set up camp right below Katniss as Cato sharpens his sword with their fire. That morning, like I mentioned in Glimmer's section, Glimmer cuddles up next to Cato as Katniss drops the tracker jacker nest on them. In the article about Cato as Theseus, Mulvaney points out this scene as further proof to prove the connection between them, stating, which might mean that he, like Theseus, found a charming Ariadne and abandoned her when things went south, or that he had Peeta's idea and the baker boy beat him to it. Katniss stole his hero story as he would see it. Mulvaney insinuates that Cato wanted to play up a romance with Glimmer, whereas personally I see it the other way around, but it's a fascinating interpretation. But I do agree that Cato used Glimmer and vice versa for comfort and security, and then Cato ditched Glimmer when the time came as the tracker jacker nest dropped. Anyways, like the other careers whose names don't rhyme with Shimmer, Cato runs to the lake to escape the tracker jackers. As Katniss starts to hallucinate from the tracker jacker venom, Cato cuts his way through the bushes, realizing that Peeta tried to save Katniss. Enraged at Peeta's betrayal, he fights Peeta, with Peeta escaping with a severe leg wound from Cato's sword. A few days later, Cato and the other careers have their stash of supplies, which Cato and Rue plan to destroy. Replacing Peeta in the career alliance is is the boy from District 3, who the careers teamed up with as he was also stung by the trackers. He joined their alliance on the condition that he rewires the landmines in the arena since he's from District 3, the district known for technology and making explosives in factories in order to protect their supplies. After Rue sets the first decoy fire, Marvel at first thinks it's Peeta, in which Cato says, "I keep telling you, forget about him. I know where I cut him. It's a miracle that he hasn't bled to death yet. At any rate, he's in no shape to raid us." Page 206. Cato later says, "When we find her, I'll kill her in my own way, and no one interferes." Page 207. As he plots his merciless plan to kill Katniss, it's also important to note here that Cato is the one to order the boy from District 3 to stand guard to make sure nothing happens to their supplies, further showing that Cato is the leader of the career path. This little moment between him and the boy from District 3 is also equally scary because it's Cato's way of telling the boy, "You better not let anything happen because your life is in my hands." After Katniss destroys the career supplies, she describes Cato's reaction, stating, "His rage is so extreme it might be comical." So people really do tear out their hair and beat the ground with their fists. If I didn't know that it was aimed at me, at what I had done to him. 212. Cato's outburst continues as the book says, Cato has finished the first phase of his tantrum and takes out his anger on the smoking remains by kicking open various containers. The boy from District 3 has done his job too well. This idea must occur to Cato too, because he turns on the boy and appears to be shouting at him. The boy from District 3 only has time to turn and run before Cato catches him in a headlock from behind. I can see the muscles ripple in Cato's arms as he sharply jerks the boy's head to the side. It's that quick. The death of the boy from District 3. The two other careers seem to be trying to calm Cato down. I can tell he wants to return to the woods. Page 213. The death of the boy from District 3 proves a lot of things about Cato. Number 1, violence, brute force, and anger are his instinctual responses. 2, the last line of that part illustrates that Cato doesn't think anything about who he is killing. He just wants to continue. Just like Katniss said about him during his interview, Cato is a killing machine. Another important thing is that during this day in the book is when the boy from District 10 is also killed by the careers, and what's never outright said who killed him, it's pretty easy to assume that it was Cato, which means Cato killed the boy from District 10 in both the book and the film, just at very different parts. This whole scene becomes a turning point for Katniss as well, as she now considers Cato to be her one true obstacle in the Hunger Games, saying, "Let the 74th Hunger Games begin, Cato, I think. Let them begin for real." Page 215. This sense of true disdain towards Cato and acknowledgement as her adversary continues on as Katniss says, "Where are you, Cato?" Page 229, after Marvel's body is taken by the hovercraft. Other than frequent worries from Katniss about if he could strike her at any moment, Cato wasn't present in the story until the feast, at least in the book. After Clove's death, the book states, "Clove!" Cato's voice is much nearer now. I can tell by the pain in it that he sees her on the ground. Cato kneels beside Clove, spear in hand, begging her to stay with him. In a moment, he will realize it's futile. She can't be saved. After a few minutes, I hear the cannon and I know that Clove has died, that Cato will be on one of our trails, either Thresh's or mine. Only one thing calms me down. Thresh has Cato's backpack containing the thing he needs desperately. If I had to bet, Cato headed out after Thresh, not me. Page 274 to 275. I will argue, and you will all see this later on, that the movie does a better job on humanizing Cato as a character. Despite this, Cato's reaction to Clove's death in the book, which isn't in the film, also humanizes his character quite a bit. This part in the book heavily implies that Clove and Cato knew each other before the games and were close, which warrants Cato's hurt response to her death. However, after the cannon fires signaling Clove's death, Cato immediately reverts back to his killing machine mindset and goes after the remaining tributes. In the book, soon after Clove's death, Cato kills Thresh and takes the District 2 bag from the feast. This isn't in the movie since Thresh is killed on the final night by the wolf mutts. When it comes down to Katniss, Peeta, and Cato in the book, Katniss thinks about her chances of killing Cato by saying, "Brutal, bloody Cato who can snap a neck with a twist of his arm, who had the power to overcome Thresh, who has had it out for me since the beginning. He probably has had a special hatred for me ever since I outscored him in training." A boy like Peeta would simply shrug that off, but I have a feeling it drove Cato to distraction, which is not that hard. I think of his ridiculous reaction to finding the supplies blown up. The others were upset, of course, but he was completely unhinged. I wonder now if Cato might not be entirely sane. That brings me back to Cato. But while I think I had a sense of Foxface, who she was and how she operated, he's a little more slippery. Powerful, well-trained, but smart? I don't know. Not like she was. And utterly lacking in the control Foxface demonstrated. I believe Cato could easily lose his judgment in a fit of temper. Not that I can feel superior on that point. I think of the moment I sent the arrow flying into the apple in the pig's mouth when I was so enraged. Maybe I do understand Cato than I think. 310 to 311. In this moment, Katniss truly understands Cato's weaknesses. He's incredibly brutal and violent, which gives him an advantage in something like the Hunger Games, but he lacks intelligence, both logical and emotional. Cato also lets his rage cloud his judgment, which Katniss empathizes with in a way with her anger towards the Capitol and the Game Makers. This is also where, once again, Katniss sees Cato as her one true enemy in these games. She says, 21 tributes are dead, but I still have yet to kill Cato. And really, wasn't he always the one to kill? Now it seems the other tributes were just minor obstacles, distractions, keeping us from the real battle of the games, Cato and me, 313 to 314. That night, the battle begins as Katniss and Peeta see Cato running towards them with no weapon. After her arrow bounces right off his chest, Katniss and Peeta realize that his gift at the feast was body armor to protect him specifically from Katniss's arrows. She thinks, Cato is upon us. I brace myself, but he rockets right between us with no attempt to check his speed. I can tell from his panting, the sweat pouring off his purplish face, that he's been running hard for a long time. Not towards us, from something. 313. As Katniss and Peeta see the wolf mutts chasing him, they all run to the cornucopia, which is also where Cato is. They climb the cornucopia, and Cato says unintelligibly, "Can they climb it?" Page 318, which upon first read I thought was directed at Katniss and Peeta, and I was like, okay, F-boy Cato is back.
That's actually impressive.
But this was likely directed at the mutts, and he was scared that the mutts could possibly climb up the cornucopia. In the film, Katniss and Peeta are sneak attacked by Cato on top of the cornucopia as they escape the wolves. Cato holds Katniss by the neck over the edge out to the wolves, but Peeta grabs him as they fight, ending with Peeta in a chokehold.
This scene characterizes Cato very differently from book to movie, so I will explain them separately, starting with the book.
Cato just laughs. Shoot me and he goes down with me. Page 321. As Katniss raises her arrow at Cato's head, they are at a stalemate. Katniss thinks, if I don't do something quickly, he'll die of asphyxiation and then I'll have lost him and Cato will probably use his body as a weapon against me. In fact, I'm sure this is Cato's plan because while he's stopped laughing, his lips are set in a triumphant smile. Page 322. Peeta signals to Katniss to shoot Cato's hand, in which Katniss explains by saying, Cato realizes what it means exactly 1 second after I do. I can tell by the way the smile drops from his lips, but it's 1 second too late because by that time my arrow is piercing his hand. 322. With an arrow in his hand, Cato lets go of Peeta as he loses his footing and falls right into the pack of furious wolf mutts. Cato, however, doesn't die immediately as he is still wearing the body armor from the feast, and Katniss assumes he might have a weapon on him as she hears occasional sounds of metal or a wolf mutt howling in pain. His death continues for hours and hours, and the mutts drag him around the cornucopia as he tries to recover. Katniss describes Cato's excruciating death by saying, but in the end, despite his remarkable strength and skill, he is simply overpowered. The cold would be torture enough, but the real nightmare is listening to Cato, moaning, begging, and finally just whimpering as the mutts work away at him. After a very short time, I don't care who he is or what he's done. All I want is for his suffering to end. Page 323. Cato's torture continues to the point where Katniss views killing him as an act of mercy. As Katniss and Peeta decide to end Cato's suffering, Katniss notices, then the raw hunk of meat that used to be my enemy makes a sound, and I know where his mouth is, and I think the word he's trying to say is please. She sends her final arrow into his skull, marking the end of Cato, the main adversary of Katniss Everdeen. Although this is the end of him in the book, I would like to point out that the book states that the hovercraft took not Cato's body, but his remains. Out of all the characters in the Hunger Games, arguably Cato's death is the most brutal and disturbing in terms of what happened to his body. Now, let's look at the movie and the differences in his death. Starting with Cato holding Peeta in a chokehold, Cato in the film is not the same smiling, murderous monster. Instead, Cato's eyes look blank, and while he tries to smile through it, he's clearly in pain. He nearly looks like he's about to cry as he says what makes the film version of Cato so fascinating. I'm dead anyway. I always wanted to win. I didn't know that until now. He then looks up in the air and says, how's that? Is that what they want? Katniss directs her arrow back at his head, and we get yet another silly line delivery from Alexander Ludwig. Well, it's not really a line, it's just really funny. As he grabs Peeta's head even harder, his facial expressions change as he's trying to stay serious while he's grimacing as he says, no, I can still do this. I can still do this. One more kill. It's the only thing I know how to do. Bring pride to my district. Not that it matters. Katniss then shoots Cato's hand, he falls off the cornucopia, and the wolves start to rip him apart. Cato's death in the film is a lot faster than in the book, so Katniss shoots Cato in the head once she sees his head in the pile of hungry wolf mutts.
Like I mentioned earlier, Cato's death is considered one of the most brutal deaths in not just the Hunger Games, but the whole trilogy. Now with him gone, let's finish off the Theseus analogy that is apparent in Cato's character.
Kate Mulvaney explains that she asked her students an open-ended question about the connection between Cato and Theseus in her literature classes, in which she says that she feels the most accurate a student has gotten is saying, in brief, that Cato is a parody of Theseus. That Cato stands for what happens when Theseus's pride runs out of control, gets off mission, and goes too far. This student of Mulvaney's is correct that Cato is a manifestation of what happens when pride and aggression goes too far. However, there is more to it than Cato being a parody of Theseus in a cautionary tale. The true meaning of Cato's story and his connection to the infamous Greek hero can be tied to a phrase that we are all familiar with from this series.
And may the odds be ever in your favor.
From the beginning, Cato had the odds entirely in his favor, even more than the other careers. The last victor of the Hunger Games was a male from District 2, just like Cato. Cato has been raised since birth to be a merciless killer, to be loyal to his district, and bring entertainment to the capital. He was dressed head to toe in gold, the color of victory and success, at the tribute parade as an iconic hero who overcame the Minotaur and brought prosperity to ancient Greece. The capital wanted Cato to be the hero of the 74th Hunger Games, like a Brutus or Augustus or the victor of the previous year. However, this was not Cato's games. This is not his story and was never his story. Mulvaney writes, "Not by any failure of his own strength or cunning does Cato lose the Hunger Games. He loses because it was never his story. And after all, Theseus died by being thrown off a cliff after he had lost his popularity in Athens. Just like Cato really died the instant Katniss and Peeta won the battle for the hearts and minds of the capital. The rest is just theater. He is a supporting character in her games. It's heartbreaking to watch him realize the 74th annual Hunger Games were never going to be his story. Even if he had won, it would be the story of how he killed the star-crossed lovers from District 12. As soon as Katniss and Peeta step out in their fiery costumes in the tribute parade, it is no longer Cato's story, which is evident in all of the elements in the story afterwards piece by piece. He death glares at Katniss for stealing what was supposed to be his moment, but got engulfed in flames. While his odds of winning in the capital are still the best, Katniss overtakes his training score by getting an 11. Furthermore, I think the scene that shows that Cato is no longer the main character of the 74th Hunger Games is during his interview. As I said in my costume analysis, silver is the color of the runner-up. His outfit is more subdued and cold, which shows even further that he is not the main character, just a supporting character in Katniss and Peeta's games. The lesson we as readers learn from Cato is that the odds often mean nothing. He still died an incredibly gruesome death. He did everything right according to the capital's views of the Hunger Games, but this wasn't his story. It wasn't his game to win. Mulvaney ends their argument stating, Cato could have started a revolution. He has the fire and the drive. He has the single-minded intensity of every radical, every revolutionary, every anarchist. But President Snow was ready for that kind of hero. The Theseus kind, who can be bought with personal honor and self-centered pride. The strong and angry, who can so easily be talked into doing all of the stupid things that Cato and Theseus both do in their careers. In his dying moments, Cato comes to realize that the capital doesn't care whether he lives or dies. If he dies, he'll be the adversary of the victors, the brutish boy who lost against Katniss and Peeta. And if he wins, he will only be remembered as the monster who murdered the star-crossed lovers. He realizes that everything he has been raised for is ultimately useless in the end, but still tries to asphyxiate Peeta because killing is the only thing he knows. Cato at first is the arrogance, the violence, and the pride of the capital, but as he unravels, he is just like the other tributes, another kid forced into a deadly situation to entertain those in power. As much as Cato is Katniss's adversary in the Hunger Games, a huge point of this series is that Cato, or any of the careers for that matter, are not the villains. The true villains are the capital for putting the people of Panem into these situations and for manipulating children, whether it is to fear them and wait for their demise or to become merciless, deadly creatures like the careers.
Happy Hunger Games! And may the odds be ever in your favor.
All in all, the careers of Hunger Games are such fascinating characters that I really enjoyed analyzing. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a like, subscribe to this channel, and turn on the bell for notifications. Comment down below if you'd be interested in any more videos about the Hunger Games or any other video ideas. I really appreciate it. I'll see you on the next video. Thank you so much!